The words came through the phone like ice water. My sister Jennifer's voice carried that particular tone she'd perfected over the years, the one that made it clear she wasn't asking or discussing, just announcing decisions she'd already made. The family reunion is adults only this year, she said. Your kids aren't invited. We're trying to keep it sophisticated. I was folding laundry in my living room, the phone wedged between my shoulder and ear. My hands stilled on my daughter's school uniform. Sophisticated, I repeated quietly. Yes. Mom and Dad agree. We're renting this beautiful resort in Monterey, and honestly, Sarah, your children are just too young. They'll ruin the atmosphere we're going for. My son Marcus was 26. My daughter Lisa was 23. Both were college graduates. Both were successful in their own right. They're adults, Jennifer. Barely. Her laugh was sharp. Marcus with his little hotel management thing and Lisa still figuring out her career. We want people who've actually accomplished something. Uncle Tom is bringing his son, the surgeon. Cousin Beth is bringing her daughter, the lawyer. You understand. I sat down on the couch, still holding Lisa's shirt. I understand. Great. I knew you'd be reasonable. The reunion is in 6 weeks. We're doing a whole weekend, Friday through Sunday. The Palmer Ridge Resort. It's exclusive. Very upscale. Probably not the kind of place you're used to, but we thought we'd splurge this year. Palmer Ridge. My heart did a small flip, but I kept my voice steady. Sounds lovely. It is. I've been coordinating everything with the events manager. They're giving us the entire West Wing, private beach access, the works. This is going to be the reunion people talk about for years. She paused. I'm sending the details to everyone who's invited. Obviously you're welcome, but just you. Tom's wife is getting a sitter for their younger kids too. It's just how it has to be. Of course, I said softly. Whatever you think is best. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet living room for a long moment. Then I called Marcus. Hey Mom, he answered. His voice had that busy quality, like he was walking somewhere quickly. Can I call you back? I'm dealing with a situation at the property. No rush, honey. Just wanted to hear your voice. Everything okay? Everything's fine. Love you. Love you too, Mom. I didn't tell him about the reunion. Not yet. The next 3 weeks were punctuated by group text messages from Jennifer. She'd created a family chat specifically for reunion planning, and I watched as she orchestrated every detail with military precision. Jennifer confirmed the wine tasting for Saturday afternoon. Premium selections only. Uncle Tom, sounds perfect. James is looking forward to networking with everyone. Jennifer, exactly the crowd he should be around. Successful people. Aunt Patricia, should we do a formal dinner Friday night? Jennifer, already booked the main dining room. I told the resort manager we're a distinguished group. She's pulling out all the stops. I noticed she'd included me in the chat but never directed any questions my way. I was copied, not consulted, a courtesy inclusion. Mom chimed in occasionally with approving messages. Dad sent thumbs-up emojis. My brother David contributed ideas about golf tee times and cigar selections. It was like watching a play where everyone had a speaking role except me. On Thursday evening, Jennifer sent a photo of her outfit selections. 5 different designer dresses laid out on her bed. Jennifer, can't decide which for Friday night. The Versace or the Prada. The responses flooded in immediately. Everyone had opinions. I stared at my phone screen, then set it face down on the counter. That night Lisa called. Marcus told me about the reunion thing, she said. Her voice was tight. Aunt Jennifer said we're not sophisticated enough? She's planning something specific, I said carefully. It's her event. It's a family reunion, Mom. We're family. I know, sweetheart. Does she know Marcus owns Palmer Ridge? No. There was a pause. Are you going to tell her? No. Mom. What she doesn't know won't hurt her, I said. Let her have her perfect weekend. Lisa made a frustrated sound. You're too nice. You know that. Maybe. 3 days before the reunion, my phone rang at 7 in the morning. Jennifer's name flashed on the screen. Sarah. Her voice was different, higher, strained. I need to talk to you about something. What's wrong? I was at Palmer Ridge yesterday doing the final walkthrough with the events coordinator. Everything was perfect, absolutely perfect. Then the manager asked to speak with me privately. I waited. She said the owner wanted to personally approve our event. Standard procedure for large family gatherings, she said. So she called him down to meet me. My coffee had gone cold in my hand. It was Marcus. Jennifer's voice cracked slightly. Your son Marcus. He owns the entire resort, Sarah. The whole thing. Why didn't you tell me? You didn't ask. I've been coordinating this whole event, talking about how exclusive it is, how upscale, and your son owns it? The events manager said he bought it 2 years ago, that he owns 4 other properties along the coast. She called him one of the most successful young hospitality entrepreneurs in California. I took a sip of cold coffee. That's nice of her to say. Nice of her to, Sarah, this is huge. This is massive. Why didn't you say anything? You said Marcus had a little hotel management thing. I figured you weren't interested in the details. The line went quiet for a moment. Look, Jennifer said, her tone shifting, becoming warmer. I think there's been a misunderstanding. About the kids not being invited. I was just trying to keep numbers manageable, you know? But obviously Marcus and Lisa should be there. I mean, Marcus owns the venue. It would be weird if he wasn't there. You said they hadn't accomplished anything. I didn't mean it like that. I was stressed about planning. You know how I get. Come on, Sarah. Tell them they're invited. Please. This whole thing could be really awkward otherwise. I'll think about it. Think about it? Sarah, the reunion is in 3 days. I know when it is. I hung up before she could say anything else. An hour later, a delivery truck pulled up to my house. The driver unloaded 6 large boxes, all wrapped in expensive paper with elaborate bows. I signed for them and carried them inside one by one. When I opened them, I found designer clothes, expensive chocolates, premium wine, and gift certificates to upscale restaurants. A card was attached to the largest box in Jennifer's handwriting, for Marcus and Lisa. Can't wait to celebrate with them this weekend. I took a photo of everything, then loaded it all back into my car. The next delivery came that afternoon. More gifts. A personalized photo album labeled Family Memories. A framed picture of all of us from 10 years ago, professionally matted. Another card. Family means everything. Let's make this reunion special together. I drove both loads to the donation center before dinner. Friday morning, my phone started ringing at 6. Jennifer. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. And again. By the 4th call I answered. Sarah, thank God. Listen, I need to talk to Marcus. The resort is saying our event might have some issues with availability. Can you have him call me? Please. Marcus is busy with his properties. He has 5 resorts to manage. 5? I thought the manager said 4. He just acquired another one in Santa Barbara last month. It didn't make the news yet. Oh. Pause. Well, can you just ask him to call? Just for a minute? I'm getting worried about the arrangements. I'll pass along the message. When I see him. Sarah, please. I'm sorry about what I said. I really am. You know I didn't mean it. Your kids are great. They're accomplished. Marcus is obviously incredibly successful. I was just stressed and said stupid things. Can we please move past this? The gifts you sent, I said calmly. I donated them. You what? To charity. They'll go to people who need them. But those were for Marcus and Lisa. Those were apology gifts. They don't need gifts. They need family who respects them. I do respect them. That's what I'm trying to say. 3 days ago they weren't sophisticated enough for your reunion. Today they're accomplished and successful. That's not respect, Jennifer. That's convenience. Her voice rose. What do you want from me? I apologized. I sent gifts. I'm trying to fix this. I want you to remember this feeling, I said quietly. The next time you decide someone isn't good enough. I ended the call. The messages started immediately, Jennifer. Dad, Uncle Tom, Aunt Patricia. Even my brother David, who never got involved in family drama. David, come on sis. Jennifer messed up. Can't we just move forward? Mom, Sarah, this is family. We forgive each other. Dad, your son is very successful. We're all proud. Let's celebrate together. Uncle Tom, Jennifer is beside herself. She's learned her lesson. I turned off my phone. Saturday morning someone knocked on my door. Jennifer stood on my porch, her eyes red, still in her pajamas even though it was nearly noon. The resort canceled our event, she said. Her voice was hollow. They said the owner declined to host it. They refunded our deposit, but we have nowhere to go. Everyone is arriving this afternoon. I have 23 family members coming to Monterey with no venue, no accommodations, nothing. I leaned against the doorframe. That's unfortunate. Please, Sarah. Talk to Marcus. I know this is coming from him. Just ask him to reconsider. I'll apologize to him directly. To Lisa too. I'll do whatever it takes. Marcus makes his own business decisions, I said. He's an accomplished young man. Very sophisticated. I'm sure he has his reasons. She flinched at her own words being reflected back. I'm begging you. Like I begged you to include my children. When I called you back that first day and you let it go to voicemail. When I texted asking if we could discuss it and you said the decision was final. Jennifer's face crumpled. I didn't know. You didn't know Marcus was successful, so my feelings didn't matter. My children's feelings didn't matter. Now that you know, everything changes. I shook my head slowly. That's the problem, Jennifer. Respect shouldn't come with conditions. What do I do? Everyone is going to blame me. This reunion has been planned for months. I guess you'll have to figure it out. You're good at planning sophisticated events for accomplished people. I'm sure you'll find somewhere appropriate. I stepped back and closed the door softly. Through the window, I watched her walk back to her car, shoulders shaking. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. The Palmer Ridge manager said Aunt Jennifer is looking for alternative venues. Should I help? I typed back, that's your decision, honey. You're the owner. Very accomplished. Very sophisticated. Whatever you choose, I'm proud of you. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then his response. I think I'll wait until she asks me directly without going through you. Good call, I sent back. Lisa called a few minutes later. Mom, Aunt Patricia just texted me asking if I could talk to Marcus. What's happening? Your aunt is learning that words have consequences. Should I respond? Do you want to? She was quiet for a moment. Not really. She's never been interested in talking to me before, only now that she needs something. Then don't. Love you, Mom. Love you too, sweetheart. I made myself tea and sat on the back porch. My phone continued buzzing with messages, but I didn't look at them. The afternoon sun was warm, and for the first time in weeks, I felt completely at peace. Sometimes the best response to cruelty isn't anger. It's simply removing your cooperation. Jennifer wanted sophistication and exclusivity. Now she had it. A reunion so exclusive she couldn't even attend. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone rang one more time. Mom's name appeared. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Sarah, please. This has gone too far. Jennifer made a mistake. Can't we fix this as a family? Mom, I said gently, when Jennifer said my kids weren't invited, you agreed with her. You texted in that group chat about how nice it would be to have an adults-only event. You never once asked how I felt or if maybe Marcus and Lisa deserved to be included. I didn't want to cause conflict. No. You didn't want to disagree with Jennifer. There's a difference. She was silent. My children are good people, I continued. They're kind, they're hardworking, they're successful. They didn't deserve to be excluded. And I didn't deserve to watch my entire family plan a celebration while making it clear my kids weren't good enough. We didn't know about Marcus's success. You shouldn't have needed to know. They should have been invited because they're family. Because that's what family reunions are for. Not because my son happened to be wealthy enough to make you reconsider. Mom's voice was small. You're right. I know. Will you talk to Marcus? No. If Jennifer wants to make this right, she needs to do it herself. Not through me. Not through gifts. She needs to actually face what she did and apologize to the people she hurt. After we hung up, I finally looked at my messages. Buried among the pleas and justifications was one text that made me pause. Jennifer, I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because Marcus owns the resort. Because I was cruel to you and your children. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway. No gifts. No strings. Just truth. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I forwarded it to Marcus with a simple note. Your call, honey. Whatever you decide, I support you. His response came 5 minutes later. I'll think about it. But if I do help, it's not Palmer Ridge. She can learn that some doors once closed stay closed. I smiled and typed back, very sophisticated decision. The comment came during our monthly family dinner at Marino's. My son Daniel, 28, sat beside me in his usual jeans and t-shirt. He'd driven over in his old Honda Civic, the one with the dent in the passenger door. Melissa had arrived in her leased BMW, talking loudly about the new subdivision where she and her husband Greg were looking at houses. The starter homes are only $400,000, she'd announced. Of course we're looking at the executive models. Those start at $650. Daniel nodded politely. He'd always been quiet, preferring observation over confrontation. Melissa had always interpreted this as weakness. We're hoping to close by spring, Melissa continued. Greg's bonus should cover the down payment. She glanced at Daniel. Not everyone can say that. My mother shifted uncomfortably. The breadsticks are excellent tonight. But Melissa wasn't done. Some people are meant to be homeowners and others are just renters. It's not a judgment, just reality. Daniel kept eating, his expression neutral. I'd learned over the years that he rarely rose to Melissa's bait. He'd simply let her talk, then go back to his life, the one she knew nothing about. Take Daniel, for example, Melissa said, gesturing with her fork. 28 years old, still renting that studio apartment downtown. No offense, Danny, but at some point you have to admit that homeownership might not be in the cards for everyone. Melissa, my father said quietly. That's enough. I'm just being realistic, Dad. The housing market is brutal. If you haven't built equity by your late 20s, you're basically priced out forever. Especially on a technician's salary. She said technician the way someone might say janitor. Daniel worked as a lead systems engineer at a tech company, but Melissa had never bothered to learn the distinction. Daniel does fine, I said, my voice tight. I'm sure he does, Melissa agreed, her tone dripping with false sympathy. Renting isn't a failure. Plenty of people rent their whole lives. It's just... She paused dramatically. Limiting. You can't build wealth, can't have equity, can't really plant roots. You're always one lease renewal away from having to move. Greg nodded along, though he looked vaguely uncomfortable. Their 12-year-old daughter, Emma, was absorbed in her phone, ignoring the whole conversation. Your son will never own a house, Melissa said, laughing as she reached for her wine glass. And that's okay. Not everyone is cut out for real estate investment. Some people are just meant to be tenants. The table went quiet. Mom stared at her plate. Dad set down his fork. Emma glanced up briefly, then went back to her phone. Daniel took a sip of water, completely calm. If you say so, Aunt Melissa. Something in his easy acceptance seemed to irritate her more than an argument would have. I do say so. I'm not trying to be mean, Danny. I'm trying to help you accept reality. The sooner you stop dreaming about homeownership and focus on being a good renter, the happier you'll be. That's when I'd had enough. I pulled out my phone, opening the folder where Daniel had asked me to store copies of his property documents. He'd given me access months ago, saying, just in case you ever need proof of anything. At the time I'd thought it was paranoid. Now I understood. Melissa, I said calmly. I want to show you something. I pulled up the first property deed. A 3-bedroom townhouse in the Pearl District, purchased 2 years ago for $380,000. Current estimated value, $490,000. I turned the phone toward her. Property number 1. Melissa squinted at the screen, then her eyes widened. What is this? Daniel's first investment property. He bought it when he was 26. I swiped to the next document. Property number 2. A duplex in the Beaumont neighborhood, purchased 18 months ago. He lives in one unit and rents out the other. That's not, Melissa started. I swiped again. And property number 3. A 4-bedroom, 3-bath house in the Eastmoreland district. Just closed last month. Paid cash. The color drained from Melissa's face. That last address look familiar? I asked. 1847 Maple Ridge Drive. The one you told me 3 months ago was your dream house. The one you lost the bid on because someone offered $20,000 over asking, all cash, no contingencies. Melissa's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Everyone had stopped eating. Dad leaned forward, staring at my phone. Mom had her hand over her mouth. Even Emma had put down her phone. But he's a technician, Melissa finally whispered. He's a lead systems engineer, I corrected. He makes $160,000 a year plus bonuses. He's been maxing out his 401k since he was 22, lives below his means, and invested in real estate instead of leasing luxury cars. Greg had gone very still, his face pale. But I never saw. He drives that old Honda he wears, Melissa stuttered. He drives a paid-off car and wears comfortable clothes, I said. Because he's smart enough to know that looking wealthy and being wealthy are two very different things. I swiped through a few more documents. Would you like to see his investment portfolio? Or maybe his savings account balance? Oh, here's a good one. His property management company's quarterly report. Turns out that duplex generates $1,800 a month in rental income after expenses. Melissa looked like she might be sick. But I wasn't finished, I said, echoing my earlier words. See, there's something else you should know about that dream house you lost. I pulled up another document. Daniel didn't buy it to live in. He bought it as an investment property. He's already got a tenant lined up, a nice family relocating from California. They're paying $3,800 a month. I looked directly at Melissa. That's more than your monthly mortgage payment would have been, isn't it? The one you couldn't qualify for because Greg's bonus was smaller than expected. Greg closed his eyes. How did you? Melissa started. You told Mom about the loan issues, I said. Last week when you were crying about losing the house. You said it was meant to be, and that material things don't matter. Mom told me because she was worried about you. She had no idea Daniel was the cash buyer who outbid you. Daniel finally spoke, his voice quiet. I didn't know it was your dream house, Aunt Melissa. I just knew it was a good investment in an appreciating neighborhood. The inspection came back clean, the bones were solid, and the rental market in that area is strong. Melissa stared at him like she'd never seen him before. When did this happen? Dad asked, his voice full of wonder. When did you buy 3 properties? Over the last 2 years, Daniel said. I started researching real estate investment when I was 25. I saved aggressively, learned about market analysis and studied neighborhood trends. The townhouse was my first purchase. I was nervous about that one, but it appreciated faster than I expected. Why didn't you tell us? Mom asked. Daniel shrugged. It felt like bragging. And honestly, I liked that nobody treated me differently. When Aunt Melissa makes comments about renters and technicians, it doesn't bother me because I know the truth. Her opinion doesn't change my reality. But you let her, Mom started. Let her what? Have opinions? She's allowed to have them, even if they're based on assumptions. Daniel took another bite of his pasta. I don't need external validation for my choices. I watched Melissa's face cycle through emotions. Shock, embarrassment, anger, and something that might have been grudging respect. I don't understand, she said finally. How can you afford this on a tech salary? Tech salaries are actually quite good, Daniel said patiently, especially in systems engineering. Plus, I live simply. I don't need a new car every 3 years or designer clothes. I buy what I need, invest the rest, and let compound interest work in my favor. But you live in a studio apartment, Melissa protested weakly. I live in half of a duplex, Daniel corrected. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, nice backyard. I call it a studio around family because it's easier than explaining my investment strategy every time we meet. Greg finally spoke. So the Honda, paid off in 2019, costs me almost nothing in maintenance. Why would I take on a car payment when I could invest that money in appreciating assets? The clothes. Melissa tried. Comfortable and functional. I work from home 3 days a week. Nobody cares if I wear jeans and t-shirts. Daniel smiled slightly. Except you, apparently. The waiter appeared, clearly sensing the tension, and quickly retreated without asking about dessert. I'm sorry, Melissa said suddenly. I've been such a snob. It was the first genuine thing she'd said all evening. You've been making assumptions, Daniel said. People do that. You see someone driving an old car and wearing casual clothes and you assume they're struggling. But struggling and choosing simplicity are very different things. I feel like an idiot, Melissa said quietly. Don't, Daniel said. Just maybe ask questions next time before making pronouncements about someone's future. Emma, who'd been silent this whole time, looked up from her phone. That's actually really cool, Daniel. You're like a secret millionaire or something. Not a millionaire, Daniel said laughing. Not yet anyway. But I'm building wealth steadily. In 10 years, maybe 15, I'll have significant passive income from rental properties. That's the goal. Financial independence before I'm 45. That's impressive, Dad said. Really impressive, son. Thanks, Grandpa. Melissa stared at her barely touched meal. The dream house, she said softly. I can't believe you own my dream house. It's a good house, Daniel acknowledged. Solid foundation, new roof, updated electrical. The tenants seem excited about it. They've got 2 kids and a dog. It'll be a good family home. Something in Melissa's expression crumbled. We were going to have 2 more kids. Fill up those extra bedrooms. Emma wanted her own bathroom. You'll find another house, I said more gently now. The market's tough, but you'll find something. Not like that one, Melissa whispered. That one was perfect. An awkward silence fell over the table. Daniel looked uncomfortable for the first time all evening. Look, he said finally, I bought it as an investment, but that doesn't mean it has to stay that way forever. If you and Greg seriously want it and you can get financing together, we could work something out. I haven't signed a long-term lease with the tenants yet, just a 6-month trial. Melissa looked up sharply. What? I mean it, Daniel said. If you can get approved for a mortgage, I'd sell it to you at my purchase price. No profit, just covering my costs and the down payment. You'd do that. Melissa's voice was small. Family's family, Daniel said simply. Even when they call you a perpetual renter at dinner. Melissa laughed and it turned into something close to a sob. I'm so sorry, Danny. I've been awful to you. Yeah, Daniel agreed. You kind of have been. For years, actually. I know. Melissa wiped her eyes. I don't know why. Maybe because you never seemed to care what anyone thought, and that bothered me. I've always cared so much about appearances. I noticed, Daniel said dryly. The BMW is leased, Melissa admitted. We can barely afford the payments. Greg's bonus was half of what we expected, and we've been scrambling ever since. We're one unexpected expense away from serious trouble. Greg nodded miserably. Then stop, Daniel said. Sell the BMW. Buy something practical. Cut the expenses that don't bring you actual joy. Build savings. It's not complicated, just hard. Says the guy with 3 properties, Melissa said, but there was no malice in it now. Says the guy who ate ramen for 2 years while saving for his first down payment, Daniel corrected. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't Instagram-worthy. But it worked. Mom reached over and squeezed Daniel's hand. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. You say it all the time, Grandma, Daniel said, smiling. Not about this, Mom said. About the person you've become, quiet and thoughtful and so much smarter than the rest of us about what actually matters. We finished dinner in a strange new atmosphere, not quite comfortable but honest in a way our family gatherings had never been before. Melissa asked Daniel questions about his investment strategy, and he answered patiently, occasionally pulling up spreadsheets on his phone to illustrate points about cash flow and appreciation rates. As we left the restaurant, Melissa pulled Daniel aside. I heard her say, "Thank you for offering to sell us the house. We're going to talk to a financial advisor and see if we can make it work. If we can't, I understand. And I'll stop judging people based on their cars and clothes." That would be nice, Daniel said. In the parking lot, Emma ran up to Daniel. Can you teach me about investing? I've got $300 saved from birthdays. Sure, Daniel said. We can talk about index funds and compound interest. Starting at 12 is actually perfect. You've got time on your side. Emma beamed. As Daniel drove away in his dented Honda, I stood with my parents watching the taillights disappear. I underestimated him, Dad said quietly. We all did. He didn't want to be estimated at all, I said. That's the whole point. He just wanted to build his life without commentary. Smart kid, Dad said. Smart man, I corrected. We drove home separately, but I felt a shift in our family dynamic. Melissa had been humbled, yes, but more importantly, she'd been educated. And Daniel, who'd never sought recognition or respect, had earned both simply by being himself, quiet, thoughtful, and financially astute. Later that night, Daniel called me. Thanks for showing the documents. I know it wasn't subtle. You're welcome, I said. And subtle wasn't working. Melissa needed facts, not hints. Think she'll really change? He asked. Maybe, I said. People can surprise you. They can, Daniel agreed. But I'm not counting on it. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, building wealth, staying humble, and letting my results speak for themselves. That's my boy, I said. 3 months later, Melissa and Greg bought the house from Daniel. They worked with a financial advisor, cut their expenses dramatically, and qualified for a mortgage. Daniel sold it to them at cost, just as he'd promised. At the closing, Melissa hugged him. Thank you, she said. For the house and for the wake-up call. We've changed a lot since that dinner. Good, Daniel said simply. I'm glad it's going to a family who'll love it. As for Daniel, he'd already purchased property number 4, a small apartment building with 6 units. Better cash flow, he explained when I asked. And I'm getting better at screening tenants. My quiet, unassuming son, building an empire one modest property at a time while the world underestimated him. I couldn't have been prouder. The comment came during what was supposed to be a celebration dinner at the Grandview, the upscale restaurant where our family gathered for important occasions. My daughter Emma, 12 years old and painfully shy, had been excited all week. She'd carefully chosen her navy dress, the one with small flowers embroidered on the collar. She'd even asked me to help curl her hair. My sister Jennifer sat across from us, her twin boys flanking her like bodyguards. Her husband Mark was scrolling through his phone, barely paying attention. Mom and Dad anchored the ends of the table, already looking uncomfortable as Jennifer launched into her usual routine. I'm just saying, Jennifer continued, her voice carrying across the white tablecloth. Some people know how to work a room and others just don't. She gestured vaguely in Emma's direction. It's like bringing a rain cloud to a beach party. Emma's fork clattered against her plate. I watched her shoulders curl inward, her carefully styled hair falling forward to hide her face. She'd been nervous about this dinner all week, worried about saying the wrong thing, wearing the wrong outfit, being too quiet or too loud. And Jennifer had just confirmed every fear. Jennifer, I said quietly, my hand finding Emma's under the table. That's enough. What? I'm just being honest. Jennifer picked up her wine glass, examining it against the light. The twins were saying just yesterday how awkward their cousin is at parties. They said she just sits in corners and makes everyone uncomfortable. I felt Emma's hand trembling in mine. The twins, ages 14, were currently absorbed in their phones, probably not even listening to their mother weaponize their names. Funny, I said, keeping my voice level. Because last month Tyler specifically asked if Emma could come to his basketball tournament. And Jason invited her to his birthday party, remember? The one where she helped organize games for the younger kids. Jennifer's smile tightened. Being polite isn't the same as actually wanting someone there. Not now, Mom whispered urgently, her eyes darting between us. Let's just enjoy dinner. But something in me snapped, not with anger but with clarity. I'd spent years watching Jennifer diminish Emma, making snide comments about her quietness, her love of books, her preference for small gatherings over large parties. I'd bitten my tongue at countless family events, telling Emma that Aunt Jennifer was just joking, that she didn't mean it. But the trembling hand in mine told a different story. And I was done pretending. Actually, Mom, let's talk about this, I said. I turned to Jennifer. You say Emma makes parties uncomfortable. Tell me, which parties are we talking about? Jennifer rolled her eyes. All of them. She barely talks, she doesn't mingle, she just sits there judging everyone. She's 12. I said. And she's introverted. That's not a character flaw. It's called being antisocial, Jennifer shot back. Maybe if you actually pushed her to be more outgoing instead of coddling her. Like you push your boys? The words came out before I could stop them. The ones who are currently on their phones instead of participating in this family dinner? Mark looked up briefly, then back down at his screen. The twins didn't even react. Jennifer's face flushed. My boys are confident. They don't need constant hand-holding. Right, I said. Is that why Tyler calls me twice a week asking for help with his homework? Or why Jason spent 2 hours crying at my house last month because he said you never listened to him? The table went silent. Even Dad, who usually stayed out of family drama, looked up from his meal. That's different, Jennifer said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. Boys are more independent. They're not independent, Jennifer. They're neglected. I hadn't meant to say it, but there it was, hanging in the air between us. You're so busy criticizing Emma for being quiet that you don't notice your own kids are desperate for attention. How dare you? Last month, I continued, when you hosted that big 4th of July party, who do you think helped set up? Who spent 3 hours in your kitchen preparing food while you posed for Instagram photos? Jennifer's mouth opened then closed. Emma did, I said. She made fruit platters, organized the dessert table, and helped your mother-in-law who couldn't reach the top shelves. She did it quietly without asking for credit because that's who she is. She helps people. I felt Emma's hand squeeze mine just slightly. And that basketball tournament where you said Tyler was being polite inviting her? He asked her specifically because she's the only family member who actually watches his games and remembers the plays he tells her about. Not you. Not Mark. Emma. Mark had the decency to look uncomfortable setting his phone down. The birthday party? I went on. Jason told me he invited her because she's the only cousin who doesn't make fun of him for liking art. She spent an hour helping him paint miniature figures because she knew he was excited about his new hobby, and you'd called it a waste of time. I never, Jennifer started. You called it playing with dolls in front of his friends, I said. He told me. He tells me a lot of things, Jennifer. Because I listen. The waiter appeared, clearly sensing the tension, and quickly retreated without taking our order. Mom cleared her throat. Maybe we should. No, Mom, I said gently. We shouldn't just move past this. Emma deserves better than being insulted at family dinners. She deserves to know that being kind and quiet isn't a flaw. That helping others without seeking attention is actually a strength. I turned to Emma, who was looking at me with wide eyes. And you need to know something, sweetheart. The people who matter, the people worth your time, they see your value. Your cousins call you when they need help with homework, when they're upset, when they need someone who won't judge them. That's not making parties feel like funerals. That's being trustworthy. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling slightly. Jennifer sat rigid in her chair, her wine glass frozen halfway to her lips. I was just joking, she said finally, her voice small. You know how I am. I do know how you are, I said. That's the problem. And I'm done pretending your jokes are harmless when they hurt my daughter. Dad finally spoke, his voice measured. Jennifer apologized to Emma. Dad. Yow. Jennifer looked around the table, finding no support. Even her own sons had put down their phones, watching her with expressions I couldn't quite read. I'm sorry, Emma, she said stiffly. I didn't mean to upset you. It wasn't a real apology and we all knew it. But Emma nodded, accepting it with more grace than Jennifer deserved. The rest of dinner passed in uncomfortable silence. Orders were placed and eaten mechanically. Mom tried several times to start neutral conversations that died within seconds. Dad focused intensely on his steak. As we were leaving, Tyler approached Emma hesitantly. Hey, I have another tournament next Saturday. Would you want to come? Emma glanced at me, then back at Tyler. Sure, she said quietly. I'd like that. Jason appeared beside his brother. And I'm doing an art show at school next month. For the advanced art class? Would you come to that too? Both of those sound great, Emma said, and I could hear the genuine happiness in her voice. Jennifer watched this exchange from near the door, her face unreadable. As we walked to our cars, she caught my arm. I really was joking, she said. You know I love Emma. Do I? I asked. Because love isn't just a word, Jennifer. It's action. It's paying attention. It's building someone up instead of tearing them down for laughs. She's just so different from my boys. That's not a bad thing, I interrupted. Different doesn't mean less. And quiet doesn't mean empty. Emma has more emotional intelligence at 12 than most adults I know. Your boys see it. They gravitate toward her because she offers them something you don't. Genuine attention and acceptance. Jennifer's eyes glistened. I'm trying my best. Then try better, I said not unkindly. Because your best right now is hurting people, both my daughter and your own sons. I didn't wait for her response. Emma and I walked to our car in silence. Once inside, she turned to me. Mom, thank you for standing up for me. Always, I said, pulling her into a hug. I should have done it sooner. I'm sorry I didn't. It's okay, she said into my shoulder. I know family stuff is complicated. We drove home in comfortable quiet, The kind that only comes when you've said everything that needs saying. When we pulled into our driveway, Emma's phone buzzed. She checked it and smiled. Tyler says his mom is making him apologize too, but he wants me to know he meant what he said about the tournament. He really does want me there. Will you go? I asked. Yeah, Emma said. I like watching him play. He's actually really good and nobody ever tells him that. That night after Emma went to bed, I sat in the kitchen thinking about the dinner. About Jennifer's cruelty disguised as humor. About my own complicity in letting it continue for so long. About the relief I'd felt finally saying what needed to be said. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. I'm sorry. Really sorry. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back. Not yet. But maybe someday. When you're ready to actually listen. Her response came quickly. I understand. I didn't know if she really did. But I knew something had shifted. Emma had spent years absorbing Jennifer's comments, internalizing them, believing that her quietness was something to fix. But tonight she'd heard a different message, that she was exactly who she needed to be. The next morning, Emma came downstairs wearing jeans and her favorite t-shirt, the one with constellations printed on it. I'm going to the library, she announced. There's a book club meeting this afternoon. Sounds good, I said. Have fun. He paused at the door. Mom? Do you think Aunt Jennifer will ever understand why what she said was so wrong? I considered the question carefully. I don't know, sweetheart. Some people have a hard time seeing how their words affect others. But that's not your responsibility to fix. Emma nodded, processing this. The twins texted me this morning. They said they're sorry their mom is mean sometimes. That's big of them to say. Yeah, Emma said. I told them it's not their fault. They said they know what it's like when she criticizes them too. Tyler said she tells him he's too sensitive all the time, and Jason said she gets mad when he doesn't want to play sports. My heart ached for those boys, trapped in Jennifer's narrow vision of who they should be. You're a good cousin, I said. Emma shrugged, but she was smiling. I just try to be nice. It's not that hard. After she left, I sat with my coffee thinking about how simple it really was, being nice, paying attention. Lifting people up instead of tearing them down. Emma understood it instinctively. Jennifer still hadn't learned it. My phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. Hi, Mom, I answered. I wanted to apologize, she said immediately. I should have said something to Jennifer years ago. I've watched her belittle Emma at every family gathering, and I always told myself it was just sisterly teasing. But it wasn't. It was cruel. Thank you for saying that, I said. Emma is a wonderful girl, Mom continued. She's kind and thoughtful and sees people in ways most of us don't. Jennifer's comments say more about Jennifer's insecurities than anything about Emma. We talked for another 20 minutes about family dynamics and the ways we sometimes enable bad behavior by staying silent. About how difficult it is to confront people we love even when they're wrong. When we hung up, I felt lighter somehow, as if speaking the truth had released something I'd been carrying for too long. That Saturday, I drove Emma to Tyler's basketball tournament. Jennifer was there, sitting alone in the bleachers while Mark worked on his laptop in the parking lot. When she saw us, she waved hesitantly. I waved back but sat on the opposite side of the gym. Emma cheered loudly for Tyler, remembering the plays he'd told her about, calling out encouragement. Tyler glanced up at her repeatedly, his face brightening each time he made a good play and heard her celebrating. After the game, Tyler ran up to Emma, sweaty and grinning. Did you see that three-pointer in the fourth quarter? That was the play I told you about. It was perfect, Emma said enthusiastically. Exactly how you described it. Jennifer approached slowly. That was a good game, Tyler, she said. Thanks, Mom, Tyler said, but his attention was still on Emma. Are you coming to my next one too? If you want me there, Emma said. Definitely. As we walked to the car, Jennifer called out, "Thank you for coming." It meant a lot to him. I nodded, acknowledging her words without committing to more. In the car, Emma said, "Do you think things will get better with Aunt Jennifer?" "I hope so," I said honestly. "But even if they don't, you know who you are. You know your worth. That's what matters." Emma smiled, looking out the window. "I'm glad you stood up for me at dinner." "Me too, sweetheart," I said. "Me too." We drove home through the autumn afternoon, the leaves beginning to turn golden, everything feeling like a new beginning. Emma hummed quietly to the radio, content in herself, no longer trying to be someone she wasn't. And I realized that was all I'd ever wanted for her. To know that being exactly who she was, quiet and kind and thoughtful, was more than enough. It was everything. The pastel blue decorations hung from every corner of the country club ballroom. My sister Jennifer sat in the center, one hand on her pregnant belly, accepting gifts from relatives and friends. I'd arrived with my son Marcus, 23 years old and quiet as always, carrying the gift we'd carefully selected. "Oh, look who decided to show up," Jennifer announced loudly as we approached. Several heads turned. My sister and her, well, Marcus. Marcus set the gift on the table with the others. "Congratulations, Aunt Jennifer. I'm happy for you." "How sweet," she said, her voice dripping with something that wasn't quite warmth. "Though I have to say I'm surprised you came. Baby showers aren't really your scene, are they?" I felt the familiar tension building in my shoulders. "We wouldn't miss it." "Of course not," Jennifer's friend Amanda chimed in from the next table. "Family is family, right?" The gift opening began shortly after. Jennifer made a show of each present, gushing over tiny clothes and stuffed animals. When she reached ours, a comprehensive collection of educational toys we'd researched for weeks, she held up each item with a puzzled expression. "These are interesting choices," she said, examining a set of sensory blocks. "Very practical. Not exactly fun but practical. They're designed for early childhood development," Marcus explained quietly. "The textures help with—" "Oh, Marcus knows all about child development now," Jennifer interrupted and several people laughed. "Did you take one online course or something?" Marcus's jaw tightened slightly but he said nothing. My mother leaned over from her seat. "Jennifer, that's enough." "What?" "I'm just making conversation." Jennifer set the toys aside and reached for the next gift. "It's adorable that Marcus thinks he understands children. Really it is." I watched my son's face remain carefully neutral, the same expression he wore when trying not to show hurt. He'd perfected that look over years of family gatherings. The shower continued with games and cake. During the diaper-changing relay race, Jennifer made sure everyone knew Marcus wasn't participating. "We need people who actually know what they're doing," she announced cheerfully. "No offense, Marcus, but this requires a certain touch." "None taken," Marcus replied, staying in his seat. I started to stand but my husband David put a hand on my arm. "Not worth it," he whispered. Later, as people mingled around the dessert table, I overheard Jennifer talking to a group of her friends. "The thing about Marcus is he's just not natural with kids," she was saying. "Some people have it, some don't. He definitely doesn't." "That's not true," I said, stepping into their circle. "Marcus volunteers at Little Steps Daycare every week. He's been doing it for 2 years. Jennifer waved a dismissive hand. "Volunteering isn't the same as actually being good with children. I'm sure he means well, but come on. You've seen him at family events. He barely interacts with my kids." "Because you don't let him," I said, my voice rising slightly. "I don't let him because I know my children," Jennifer shot back. "They need someone energetic, someone who gets down on their level. Marcus just sits there." Amanda nodded sympathetically. "Some people are just better with adults." Marcus had been standing near the punch bowl, close enough to hear everything. His face had gone carefully blank again. "Marcus is great with children," I insisted. "Your kids specifically ask for him when they need help with homework. That's different. That's academic. I'm talking about actual childcare, bonding, that sort of thing." Jennifer patted her belly. "When this little one arrives, I'll need people around who really understand children. People with natural ability." "Jennifer." "It's fine, Mom," Marcus said quietly, though his hands were clenched at his sides. "She's entitled to her opinion." "See? Even he knows I'm right," Jennifer said, smiling at her friends. The afternoon dragged on. Every few minutes brought a new comment, a new dig disguised as concern or observation. When Marcus tried to pick up Jennifer's 4-year-old daughter, Emma, after she fell and scraped her knee, Jennifer swooped in immediately. "I've got her, Marcus. Thanks anyway." "He was just trying to help," I said. "I know, and it's sweet, but Emma needs someone who knows how to handle these situations." Jennifer carried her daughter away, leaving Marcus standing there with his hands empty. David pulled me aside. We should probably go soon. Before you say something you'll regret. Before I say something I'll regret? What about everything she's been saying? I know, but you know how these family things go. It's better to just what? Let her keep humiliating our son. Marcus appeared beside us. Can we go? Please. The defeat in his voice broke something in me. But before I could respond, Jennifer's voice rang out across the room. Everyone. Time for one more game before we wrap up. I need all the parents to gather around. She explained the rules of a trivia game about child rearing, questions about developmental milestones, first aid, nutrition. Things any involved parent would know. Marcus, you should sit this one out, Jennifer said sweetly. This is really for people with hands-on experience. He has hands-on experience, I said firmly. He volunteers. At a daycare, yes, you mentioned that. But that's not the same as real parenting experience, is it? The room had gone quiet, everyone watching the exchange. Your son will never be good with children, Jennifer said, and though her tone was light, the words landed like stones. He's too rigid, too awkward. Children need warmth and spontaneity. They need someone who gets them. She looked around at the assembled guests. I mean, look at him. Can you honestly imagine Marcus changing diapers at 2 a.m? Soothing a crying baby? Playing peekaboo? Marcus stood there, his face pale. A few people laughed uncomfortably. That's enough, I said, but my voice came out weak. I'm not trying to be mean, Jennifer continued. I'm being honest. Some people are cut out for working with children and some aren't. Marcus is smart, sure, but that's not the same thing. My kids need babysitters who actually connect with them, not someone who's just going through the motions. Weird, I heard myself say, my voice suddenly steady and cold. That's weird, since your kids literally beg for him to babysit them. Jennifer's face changed. What? Em and Jake. They ask for Uncle Marcus specifically. Remember last month when you called me, desperate for a sitter because your regular one canceled? Emma cried when you said Marcus couldn't do it. That's not. And the month before that, when Jake had nightmares and wouldn't sleep. You called Marcus at 11 at night because Jake would only calm down talking to him on the phone. Jennifer's friends were watching her now, confused. My mother touched my arm. Not here, she whispered urgently. Please, not here. But something had snapped. Years of watching my son diminished, dismissed, treated as less than. Years of keeping quiet for the sake of family peace. Do you want to know why Emma asks for Marcus? I continued, my voice carrying across the silent room. Because he's the only one who listens when she talks about her imaginary friend. He built her a whole cardboard castle for that friend to live in. He spent 6 hours on it. I didn't know that, Jennifer said quietly. And Jake? Marcus taught him to read before kindergarten. Not because you asked, but because Jake was frustrated and Marcus noticed. He went out and bought special books with his own money. He spent every Saturday morning for 3 months working with him. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. Mom, stop. No, I said, shaking him off gently. I'm not stopping. Not this time. I turned back to Jennifer, whose pregnant glow had faded to an uncomfortable flush. You want to talk about who's good with children? Marcus volunteers 20 hours a week at Little Steps. Not because it looks good on a resume. Not because he's trying to prove something. Because he loves it. The director told me they've never had a volunteer so dedicated. Parents request him specifically for their kids. I'm sure that's lovely, but... Last week, a little boy with autism who hadn't spoken in months said his first word to Marcus. The parents cried. They sent Marcus a card thanking him for his patience and understanding. The room was absolutely silent now. Your son will never be good with children, I repeated Jennifer's words back to her. That's what you said. In front of all these people. About a young man who gives up his weekends to help children learn and grow. Who studies child psychology in his spare time because he wants to be better at connecting with them. Who has a waiting list of parents wanting him to tutor their kids. Jennifer's hand trembled slightly on her water glass. I didn't mean. You did mean it. You've always meant it. Every family gathering, every holiday, every chance you get to make him feel small. I felt tears burning in my eyes but refused to let them fall. He's too polite to defend himself, so he just takes it. But I'm done watching. This is my baby shower, Jennifer said, her voice breaking slightly. You're ruining my baby shower. No, I said quietly. You did that when you decided to humiliate my son in front of everyone. Amanda stood up. Maybe we should all just calm down and... Sit down, Amanda, I said, not taking my eyes off Jennifer. You don't get to play peacemaker after you laughed along with every cruel thing she said. My mother tried again. Please, can we just... Mom, you know what Marcus does every Sunday? He calls Emma and Jake and does video chat story time with them. Their favorite part of the week. Did you know that, Jennifer? Did you know your kids count down the days until Uncle Marcus calls? Jennifer's eyes were filling with tears now. Stop. Why? Because it's uncomfortable? Because you're realizing that maybe you've been wrong about him this whole time. Marcus tugged at my arm more insistently. Mom, please. I just want to go. I looked at my son, saw the mixture of embarrassment and relief on his face, and felt my anger deflate slightly. You're right, I said to him, then looked back at Jennifer. We're leaving. Enjoy your shower. As we walked toward the exit, the room remained silent. No one said goodbye. No one tried to stop us. In the parking lot, Marcus let out a long breath. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I said firmly. I did. She's going to be even worse now. Let her. I'm done pretending her behavior is acceptable for the sake of family harmony. David unlocked the car. Well, that was certainly something. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Was that really necessary? I typed back, yes. Another buzz. This time from Jennifer. I think you owe me an apology. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed, I think you owe Marcus about 23 years worth of apologies. But I'm not holding my breath. As we drove away, Marcus was quiet in the back seat. Finally he spoke. Thanks, Mom. Always, I said, meeting his eyes in the rearview mirror. Always. My phone kept buzzing with messages from family members. I turned it off. Whatever fallout was coming, it was worth it. I'd finally stopped protecting my sister's feelings and started protecting my son's dignity. It was long overdue. The next morning, my phone had 37 missed calls and twice as many text messages. Most were from family members expressing shock, disappointment, or anger at my outburst. A few, surprisingly, were supportive. My cousin texted, about time someone said something. Marcus is a sweetheart. Jennifer's message simply said, you've made family gatherings impossible now. I hope you're happy. I replied, you made them impossible for Marcus years ago. I just finally noticed. She didn't respond. 3 days later, Emma called our house phone. Can Uncle Marcus come over? Mommy says no, but I miss him. My heart broke a little. Let me talk to your mommy, sweetie. But Jennifer had already taken the phone. Stop turning my children against me. I'm not doing anything, I said calmly. Emma called here herself. Because you put ideas in her head at the shower. I told the truth. If that's uncomfortable for you, maybe examine why. She hung up. A week passed. The family group chat that I'd been removed from apparently discussed nothing but my terrible behavior and poor Marcus, caught in the middle of his mother's dramatics. Then my mother called. Jennifer wants to talk. Then she can call me herself. She's struggling. The shower really upset her. Good, I said and meant it. That's not very charitable. Neither is spending years belittling your nephew. My mother sighed. She wants to apologize to Marcus. Will you let her? That's Marcus's decision, not mine. I asked him that evening. He thought about it for a long time. Okay, he finally said. But only if she means it. No more fake apologies just to keep the peace. Deal. Jennifer came over the following Sunday. She looked tired, her pregnancy making her movements slow and careful. Marcus sat across from her at our kitchen table. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I've been terrible to you. For a long time. Marcus nodded, waiting. I think, she paused, choosing her words carefully. I think I was jealous. Of how easy it seems for you. How much my kids love you. It's not easy, Marcus said. I work at it. A lot. I know. I see that now. She wiped her eyes. Emma won't stop talking about the castle you built. I never knew about that. You never asked. The simple statement hung in the air. You're right, Jennifer said. I never asked. I just assumed. And I was wrong. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't complete absolution. But it was a start. As Jennifer left, she turned back. When the baby comes, would you want to help sometimes? If you're not too busy. Marcus smiled, genuine and warm. I'd like that. After she drove away, I asked Marcus how he felt. Tired, he admitted. But good, I think. Maybe things can be different now. Maybe, I agreed. My phone buzzed one more time. Jennifer, thank you for finally telling me the truth. Even if it hurt. I looked at my son, thought about all the years of hurt he'd quietly endured and typed back. He deserved someone to defend him. I should have done it sooner. Her response came quickly, better late than never. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was better late than never. But as I watched Marcus head upstairs, humming softly to himself, I made a silent promise. Never again would I stay quiet when someone diminished him. Never again would I choose false peace over his dignity. Family harmony was important. But protecting my son was more important. Always had been. I just finally figured that out. The restaurant was one of those upscale places where the waiters refold your napkin when you go to the bathroom. My sister Diane had chosen it for this family dinner, celebrating her promotion to senior partner at her law firm. She sat at the head of the table, glowing with success. My son Trevor, 25 and perpetually underestimated, had arrived early to coordinate with the staff. He'd arranged the seating, pre-ordered Diane's favorite wine, and prepared a custom dessert with congratulatory messaging. Nobody noticed. This place is incredible, Diane announced, gesturing at the elegant dining room. I specifically requested this private room. The coordination it took was exhausting. I glanced at Trevor, who was studying his menu intently. He'd been the one to secure this reservation 3 months ago, when Diane mentioned her promotion was coming. She'd asked him to call the restaurant, then took full credit when the booking came through. My father raised his glass. To Diane, who always rises to every challenge. We all clinked glasses. Trevor's smile was polite, practiced, carefully empty of any expectation. Diane's husband, Mark, leaned back in his chair. You know what separates successful people from everyone else? The ability to handle real responsibility. Complex projects. High stakes. Absolutely, Diane agreed. She looked pointedly at Trevor. Some people just aren't wired for that kind of pressure. My husband, Richard, touched my leg under the table, a warning. I ignored it. Speaking of responsibility, my mother chimed in. Diane managed her wedding planning herself. Every detail. Remember how perfect it was. I remembered how perfect it was. I also remembered Trevor spending 6 months coordinating vendors, managing the budget, negotiating with the venue, handling the guest list crisis, and creating seating charts that satisfied Diane's complicated family politics. It was a beautiful wedding, I said neutrally. Beautiful because I made sure every element was executed flawlessly, Diane said. You can't delegate that kind of thing to just anyone. It requires a specific skill set. Trevor excused himself to the restroom. I watched him go, shoulders slightly hunched, and felt something crack inside my chest. The appetizers arrived. Diane inspected hers critically. The presentation is slightly off. When you're paying premium prices, you expect premium execution. Everything looks wonderful to me, my mother said quickly. That's because you don't have an eye for detail, Diane replied, not unkindly. It's not a criticism, Mom. Some people notice these things, some people don't. It's just how brains work differently. Richard cleared his throat. How's the new associate working out at your firm? Diane lit up. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. She handled this massive case filing last week with zero supervision. That's what I look for. People who can manage complex responsibilities independently. When Trevor returned, Diane was deep into a story about her associate's accomplishments. She barely paused when he sat down. The thing is, Diane continued, real responsibility isn't just about showing up. It's about anticipating problems, managing multiple stakeholders, keeping everything organized under pressure. Most people completely fall apart when faced with that level of complexity. My father nodded sagely. Your mother and I tried to instill that in all our children. Some absorbed it better than others. The implication hung in the air. Diane had absorbed it. I had partially absorbed it. Trevor, by omission, had not. Trevor's very organized, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Oh, I'm sure he is, Diane said in that tone people use when they're being generous. In his own way. But there's a difference between being organized in your personal life and being able to handle serious professional responsibilities. What exactly do you think Trevor does all day? I asked. Diane shrugged. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. Something with computers? Tech support. He's a project manager, Richard said quietly. Right, Diane waved her hand dismissively. I'm sure that's important in its own way. But we're talking about real leadership roles. Strategic planning. Managing budgets in the millions. Client relationships. Legal implications. The kind of thing that actually requires serious capability. Trevor was cutting his food into very precise, small pieces. A thing he did when upset but trying not to show it. Your son will never handle real responsibilities, Diane said suddenly, looking directly at me. And I don't mean that cruelly. Some people are just better suited for support roles. There's no shame in that. The table went quiet. Even my mother, who usually rushed to smooth over any conflict, seemed frozen. Trevor set down his fork carefully. It's okay, Mom. But it wasn't okay. It had never been okay. 25 years of watching my sister casually diminish my son while taking credit for his work, and I'd stayed quiet because that's just how Diane is, and family harmony matters. Interesting perspective, I said, my voice remarkably steady. Especially since you begged him to manage your entire wedding. Diane's mouth actually dropped open. What? Trevor. You begged him to manage your wedding. Remember? March 2 years ago you called our house crying because your wedding planner quit and you had no idea what to do. You literally said, and I quote, I need Trevor. He's the only one who can save this. I never said that. You absolutely said that. I was standing right there. You were panicking because you had 6 weeks until the wedding and no system in place. Mark looked at his wife. Honey, you told me you handled everything yourself. I did handle it, Diane said, but her voice had lost its certainty. I made all the decisions. Trevor did everything else, I continued. He coordinated with 23 vendors. He created the budget tracking that kept you from going $40,000 over budget. He visited the venue 6 times to verify setup. He managed the RSVP database and created the seating chart. He negotiated with the florist when they tried to charge triple for last-minute changes. He found a replacement string quartet when your musicians canceled. He assembled 200 welcome bags the night before because you forgot to arrange it. That's not. He negotiated with the florist when they tried to charge you triple for last-minute changes. He found a replacement string quartet when your original musicians canceled. He personally assembled 200 welcome bags the night before the rehearsal dinner because you forgot to arrange it. My father was staring at me. Is this true? Ask Mark, I said. He was there for some of it. Mark had the grace to look uncomfortable. Trevor did help quite a bit. Help. I felt my voice rising despite my best efforts. He managed the entire operation. Diane showed up to make color choices and approve menus. Trevor did the actual work of coordinating everything. I don't appreciate you rewriting history, Diane said, her lawyer voice coming out. I was very involved in my own wedding. You were involved in the fun parts. Trevor handled all the responsibilities you're now claiming only special people can manage. Dad, please, Diane said, looking at our father. Not now. This is supposed to be a celebration. Actually, my father said slowly, I'd like to hear more about this. Trevor, you coordinated Diane's wedding. Trevor looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. I helped. He did more than help, I said. And this isn't the first time. Remember when Diane got the Hoffman case and needed someone to organize her discovery documents? That was Trevor. Remember when she bought her house and needed help managing the renovation contractors? Trevor. When she launched her home office and needed the technology setup. Trevor spent 3 weekends configuring everything. Those were small things, Diane protested. No, I said firmly. Those were real responsibilities. Complex projects with multiple stakeholders and high stakes. The exact things you just claimed he could never handle. The waiter appeared to clear our appetizer plates. The silence was excruciating. He retreated quickly. I think, my mother said carefully, perhaps we should all take a breath. No, Mom, I said. We shouldn't. Because this happens constantly. Diane dismisses Trevor while relying on him whenever she needs something managed. And we all go along with it. I have never dismissed Trevor, Diane said, but her voice shook slightly. You literally just said he'll never handle real responsibilities. At a dinner he organized. At a restaurant he booked. With a custom dessert he arranged. While sitting at a table he chose the seating chart for. Richard leaned over. Love, maybe we should. Did you arrange this dinner? My father interrupted, looking at Trevor. Trevor nodded reluctantly. All of it? The reservation, the private room, all the details. Diane asked me too, Trevor said quietly. She was busy with the promotion stuff. She sent me her preferences and I handled the logistics. Diane's face went from flushed to pale. I didn't realize you'd done quite so much. You never realize, I said. That's the problem. You ask him to handle things, he handles them perfectly, and then you tell everyone he's not capable. I don't do that. You do it constantly. At Christmas, you told Aunt Marie that Trevor struggles with complex tasks while you were literally holding the custom photo album he'd designed and printed for you. At Mom's birthday, you announced he wasn't detail-oriented after he'd spent 6 weeks planning that surprise party. My mother shifted uncomfortably. The party was lovely. Trevor planned every element of that party, I told her. The venue, the catering, the guest list, coordinating everyone's schedules, arranging the photo slideshow. Diane brought a cake. A very nice cake, Diane said weakly. You're missing the point, I said. The point is that you consistently underestimate Trevor while depending on his abilities. And then you announce to the family that he'll never handle real responsibilities. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? Diane was silent for a long moment. The entrees arrived. Nobody moved to eat them. I think, Trevor said quietly, maybe I should go. No, my father said firmly. Stay. We all looked at him in surprise. Dad rarely intervened in family conflicts. Diane, he said, his voice serious, your mother and I raised you better than this. Dad, you were just putting your nephew down in front of the entire family. Again, apparently. And using his own work to celebrate yourself while claiming he's not capable of that same work. He looked at Trevor. I owe you an apology. We all do. It's fine, Trevor said automatically. It's not fine, Dad said. You've been managing complex projects for this family for years and we've treated it like nothing. Like you're doing the bare minimum instead of going above and beyond constantly. I don't do it for recognition, Trevor said. Which is exactly why you deserve some, Dad replied. He looked at Diane. You need to apologize. Genuinely. Diane's eyes were shining with tears. I'm sorry, Trevor. I really am. I didn't realize I was doing that. You did realize, I said quietly. You just didn't care because it was convenient not to. That's harsh, my mother protested. But accurate, Richard said, surprising everyone. I've watched this for years. Trevor does incredible work. Diane takes credit or dismisses it. It needed to be said. Diane wiped her eyes with her napkin. I do appreciate everything you do, Trevor. I guess I assumed you knew that. How would he know that when you constantly tell him and everyone else that he's not capable? I asked. I never meant it that way. She trailed off. Just what? I don't know. Maybe I was threatened? You're right that I rely on him. Maybe it was easier to pretend he was just being helpful rather than admit that he's better at this than I am. The admission hung in the air. Trevor looked at his aunt with something like pity. You're really good at your job, Aunt Diane. You don't have to put me down to prove that. I know, she said softly. I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. The dinner limped forward after that. The conversation was stilted, uncomfortable. Diane kept trying to make things normal again, but the dynamic had fundamentally shifted. When the custom dessert came out, beautifully presented with congratulatory script in chocolate, Diane actually thanked Trevor out loud. It was a small thing, but it mattered. In the parking lot afterward, my father pulled Trevor aside. I watched them talk, saw Dad's hand on Trevor's shoulder. What did Grandpa say? I asked when Trevor returned to our car. He offered me a consulting job managing projects for his company. Paid position, not a family favor. That's wonderful, Richard said. Yeah, Trevor smiled, a real smile. He said I clearly have skills that should be properly utilized and compensated. On the drive home, Trevor was quiet for a long time. Then he said, thanks, Mom, for saying something. Finally. I should have said it years ago, I replied. I'm sorry I didn't. Better late than never, I guess. The next day Diane called. I've been thinking about last night. And I owe Trevor more than just an apology. I'd like to hire him as a consultant for my firm. We're terrible at project management and he's obviously brilliant at it. Actual salary, not a family discount. You should ask him directly, I said. I will. But I wanted to make sure you knew I was serious about changing how I treat him. After we hung up, I thought about years of staying quiet, smoothing things over, protecting Diane's feelings at Trevor's expense. Family harmony had seemed important. But maybe some harmony wasn't worth maintaining if it came at the cost of someone's dignity. Trevor could decide for himself whether to work with Diane, whether to forgive her completely, whether to trust that things would really be different. But at least now everyone knew the truth. At least now his capabilities were acknowledged rather than dismissed. It wasn't a perfect resolution. Diane's attitudes wouldn't change overnight. The family dynamics were still complicated. But it was a start. And sometimes a start is enough. That evening, Trevor showed me an email from Diane formally offering him a consulting contract with an impressive salary. What do you think? I think, I said carefully, that you should do whatever feels right to you. No obligation to forgive, no pressure to accept. He read the email again. She did acknowledge specific projects I've managed. Using actual details. That's new. It is. Maybe people can change, he said thoughtfully. Maybe, I agreed. But they don't change unless someone makes them see the truth first. He smiled at me. Thanks for being that someone. Always, I said. Even when it takes me too long to find the courage. Trevor eventually accepted Diane's consulting offer, with clear boundaries and professional expectations. Whether their relationship fully healed I couldn't say. But at least it started from a place of honesty rather than polite fiction. And at least Trevor knew that someone in the family was willing to defend him, even when it made dinner uncomfortable. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to stay quiet anymore, even if it ruins the meal.